Welcome to the Title IX at 40 conference. This important conference is associated with the Sharp Center for Women and Girls, a research and policy center funded by the Women's Sports Foundation and the University of Michigan School of Kinesiology and Institute for Research on Women and Gender. My name is Carol Boyd, and I'm the co-director of Sharp and a professor at the University of Michigan. Along with my University of Michigan colleagues, Dr. Cathy Babiak, who is the director of Sharp, and Michelle Seeger, who is the associate director of Sharp, we welcome you. Sharp also has an executive leadership group. We call it lovingly the ELT. And there are two very important colleagues that I want to introduce to you, Drs. Donald Sabo and Marge Snyder. The five of us on the ELT, Cathy, Michelle, Don, Marge, and I, want to welcome you to the conference as well and to let you know that we want this to meet your highest expectations. So in the next couple of days, seek us out, talk to us, and perhaps we can even tell you something about Sharp. But before we begin, there are many people who have made this event possible, and I want to draw your attention to them and their many contributions. Funding for this conference primarily came from the University of Michigan's Rackham School of Graduate Studies. Indeed, it could not have happened without the funds from Rackham. Not only did they give us the money, but they gave us this beautiful building in which to hold this conference. Additional conference funds came from many other, yes. Additional conference funds came from many other units, and you can review these in your program. And while we are all very grateful for the financial support we have received, this event could not have happened without the staff support from all of the staff at the Institute for Research on Women and Gender, and in particular, Terry Torco, the event planner, Deborah Schwartz, our communications specialist, and Tammy Culler, our IT specialist. They spent days, not just hours, days assisting with arrangements such as airline tickets, press releases, and updates to the website. Terry, Tammy, and Deborah, from my heart and from the ELT, we thank you. I also want to thank Jared Wadley, the Women's Sports Foundation, and the School of Kinesiology for their many contributions. And now, I have the very happy task of introducing the director of the Sharp Center for Women and Girls and my colleague, Dr. Cathy Babiak. Dr. Babiak is an associate professor of sports management in the School of Kinesiology at the University of Michigan and is an internationally recognized scholar in the area of sports management. She received her PhD from the University of British Columbia in 2003, and we are very lucky that shortly after that she joined us at the University of Michigan. Dr. Babiak's expertise lies in areas of organizational governance, sport policy, and individual and organizational philanthropy in professional and in the levels of professional and Olympic sports. She's examined athlete representation in decision-making around policies and issues that most affect athletes. Babiak's most recently funded project examines athlete philanthropy and uses gender as a variable to explore differences in the foci and the involvement of athletes in their own charitable foundations. Dr. Babiak was recognized as a research fellow for the Center for the Study of Sport in Society, and has worked with the Sports Philanthropy Project as well as Athletes for Hope. She has also lectured nationally and internationally on topics related to corporate social responsibility, the Olympic Games, athlete philanthropy, and athlete representation. So now, it is with great pleasure that I'm going to turn the podium over to my colleague and the director of Sharp, Dr. Cathy Babiak.
Thank you, Carol. Welcome, everyone. I am so pleased to be here with you tonight and to welcome you to the kickoff event of our Title IX at 40 conference. We've been looking forward to this moment since planning began in April 2011, and everyone on our team has worked so hard to make this an outstanding event. The reason the Sharp Center is hosting this conference on the eve of the 40th anniversary of Title IX is not just to look to the past 40 years to reflect on the impact of Title IX, and it has had a substantial impact. Create a call to action for researchers, administrators, coaches, and policymakers in order to truly fulfill the promise of this groundbreaking legislation. I hope everyone leaves here tonight and after the conference having been re-energized and re-inspired, and that you will have an opportunity to connect with those in attendance to further efforts for equity. And we at the Sharp Center want to support your work in this regard. And we are so fortunate in this room tonight and over the next few days to have the past, present, and future of Title IX represented. We have the pioneers who were instrumental in supporting this legislation when it passed in 1972, the women and men who have fought over the last 40 years for equity and access for girls and women, the current athletes who are beneficiaries of Title IX, and athletes of the future, including my daughter, Ruby. She's 7 years old and is a budding soccer player, and she's in first grade. She's here tonight, too. So please take some time to acknowledge and thank these pioneers and leaders for what they have done. And please think about what you can do to make a difference in the lives of women and girls in increasing opportunities for participation in sport and physical activity. I welcome you to join us after this evening's program for a reception to meet our special guest and conference keynote speaker, Laila Ali, and it will be held in the lobby immediately following this lecture. And then the reception will be followed by a free workshop on Title IX led by Nancy Hogshead-Maker, which begins at 7:30 p.m. upstairs on the 4th floor. Now, it is my pleasure to call to the stage an accomplished University of Michigan athlete, Julia Darnton. Julia is a rower for the UM team and has founded a new organization called Michigan Women Athletes. She's a leader, innovator, and champion for women athletes. And she's a very busy woman and has taken time out of her training schedule to be with us tonight, along with the rest of her rowing team, who are all here too. They're competing in the Big Ten Championships on Sunday, so this says a lot about their commitment and support to women's sports. Julia's going to say a few words about her experience as an athlete at Michigan, and we'll introduce Laila Ali. So, Julia?
Thank you, Cathy. Hello, everyone. Like Cathy said, my name is Julia Darnton, and I am a recently graduated senior from the University of Michigan, a member of the women's rowing team, founder of MWA, Michigan Women Athletes, the first female student-athlete group dedicated to empowering women athletes, and a soon-to-be employee of Game On Sports Camp for Girls. My whole life, I grew up idolizing women athletes. It started with my mom, who has been an athlete her entire life. And as an Ann Arbor native, I was lucky enough to be able to go to Michigan women's soccer games, volleyball games, and softball games. And I remember thinking, wow, how amazing would it be to become a Michigan athlete? And in the fall of 2008, I was given that opportunity. I joined the women's rowing team here at Michigan, and this experience has been the most beneficial of my entire life. I've gained lifelong friends, many of whom are here tonight, and with whom I will be racing for the Big Ten Championship in 4 short days. Go Blue. Thank you. I have learned courage, discipline, and most of all, relentlessness from my experience as a Michigan athlete. My team's #1 core value is we are relentless. Whenever we are behind in a race or facing a tough workout, my coaches say to us, find a way, Michigan, find a way. And we find a way. And because I've been a Michigan athlete, I know that for the rest of my life, I will be able to find a way. But my story is one of many. There are women across the country, and so many in this room right now, who have been empowered through athletics, and we were given this opportunity because of Title IX. One such woman, Miss Laila Ali, is not only a talented and successful athlete, but she is an inspiration to women athletes everywhere. Miss Ali is the current president of the Women's Sports Foundation, four-time world champion boxer. She is a businesswoman, founder of the Laila Ali lifestyle brand, and graduate of Santa Monica College with a degree in business management. She is a wife, she is a mother, she is the daughter of legendary boxer Muhammad Ali. She is a TV personality, appearing on Dancing with the Stars and other such shows. And she is a role model for women athletes and aspiring women athletes everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Laila Ali.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. How are you guys doing today? Wonderful. Thank you for being here. I'm excited to be here. You know, this is my town, basically, my dad's area, so I was looking forward to coming and representing the Women's Sports Foundation. I'm honored to be here, actually, on behalf of the Women's Sports Foundation. And Billie Jean King could not be here today, but she sends her regards. Here with me today are an amazing group of athletes, women that are Olympians, champions, and they are representing their sports. And I just want to point some of them out today. Well, not point, but recognize them. Hi, ladies. I got my team with me today. So, Donna De Verona, Jenny Finch, Benita Fitzgerald Mosley, Nancy Hogshead McCarr, and Sarah Hughes. Thank you. The Women's Sports Foundation has been generating research and public policy for nearly 4 decades. So our partnership with the University of Michigan and the development of the Sharp Center were a perfect fit, and we are so honored and happy to be working with you. As you all know, since Title IX was enacted, and it's been in effect, we have come a long way, but there is still a lot more work to do. Today, I'd like to share my story with you, discuss the importance of Title IX, and point out some of the benefits of sports and physical activity. So the question is, where would I be if I did not become a professional boxer? Anybody know the answer to that? Well, I'm not a psychic. I mean, I don't know where I would be either, but what I do know is that boxing shaped me into the woman that I am today. Now, growing up, I never played sports. That's the difference between my story and a lot of the women that I come across that are athletes. I didn't know that I had the heart of a champion. I never experienced what it felt like to play, or better yet, to win. So through boxing, I learned that I had what it took. And I regret that I didn't, participate in sports at a younger age. Now, one thing I can tell you is where I know I would not have been if I would have participated in sports, and that's in trouble. Because growing up, I got into a lot of trouble, and that was because, my parents divorced when I was young. My mom remarried and ended up in a dysfunctional relationship. So, of course, I was living in a dysfunctional household, and I had a lot of anger and resentment towards my mother because of that. And I just remember trying to find my way. My dad's Muhammad Ali. He lives in a different state. My mom's dealing with her marriage, so that left me alone. And I made a lot of my own rules, and I'm talking about everything from what time I went to bed, whether I went to school or not, whether I was going to do my homework, who I hung out with, everything. So for me, that ended up translating into bad grades, bad choices, and juvenile hall. A lot of people don't know that about me. I actually was in jail for 3 months. Yeah, it felt like 3 years, I tell you that. So, and it just all was a result of being, hanging out with the wrong crowd. And, I didn't want to be Muhammad Ali's daughter. I wanted to be me. I was a leader and I had strength, but I just didn't know how to channel that energy. So it wasn't until I was 18 and had been past all of that I saw women's boxing on TV for the first time. And I can remember the moment so clearly. I was at a friend's house, my best friend at the time, and we were with her father, and we were getting ready to watch a Mike Tyson fight. We had our popcorn, and we were placing our bets, who was going to win and all that. And we're sitting there, and all of a sudden I see these women walk into the ring. And and I remember it was Christy Martin. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, but she had her pink on, and she's walking to the ring. And I'm like, well, what is this? We're all surprised because we didn't realize that there were women on the undercard. And I just remember I instantly was excited about the idea that women fought. I couldn't believe that I didn't know that women fought, being that my dad's Muhammad Ali, but just the average person didn't know at the time. And I wanted to do it. I just remember wanting to do it and feeling like I could do it, even before they started fighting. So the women, they fought their hearts out, and that really left an impression on me. And I remember telling my friend, I want to do that. And she knew me well, and she was like, girl, you can do it. And her dad was like, those women will knock your head off, So at the time I was in school, full time. I had a nail salon. And, I was on a path. So it took me a minute to actually, follow my heart into the ring, because I was worried about what people would think, to say, okay, I was going to school for business and now I want to box. So like I said, it took me about a year to gather my courage to follow my heart into the ring. And I joined a boxing gym. And of course, it was like, okay, I'm gonna keep this low key. I don't want people to know that I'm thinking about turning pro, because I knew that it would just be a big deal publicly being, Muhammad Ali's daughter. So I said, I'm just gonna start working out and try to lose weight. But I really wanted to see if I had the talent. I've had what it took. So I fell in love with boxing. I was going to work, going to school at 9 o'clock every night, 5 days a week. I would go to the gym. And I found the energy because I wanted to learn and I wanted to get better every day. And I was soaking up all the knowledge and learning everything that I needed to. And I knew that I would be a world champion. It's just about putting in the time and the effort and learning what it would actually take. Because like I said, I wasn't an athlete. I was out of shape. I wasn't eating right. I was just your average girl. And, I had to learn all of these things, but my inspiration came from wanting to be the best and being told that these are the things that I had to do to be the best. So, long story short, I retired from boxing, a world champion, undefeated, 24-0, 21 knockouts. And so I accomplished my goals there. Thank you. Thank you. So now, when we're here to talk about Title IX in sports, I think, where would I have been without boxing? And first thought that comes to mind is I wouldn't be me, because I am a fighter in every sense of the word, and I always have been. Now, I learned how to win in the ring, and I've proven to myself through boxing that I can always win, whether I'm in the ring or out of the ring. And that's because I believe in myself. And thank God that that confidence was passed down to me through my father. And in, growing up, like I said, when you continually put in the work and show yourself that you can do it, then you tend to be more confident and you just believe in everything that you do. So boxing taught me how powerful the mind is. Excuse me. Now, most of my fights, well, all of my fights really, I won before I even went into the ring. Because for me, it was very mental. And that was because in my mind, I truly felt, it wasn't something that I just said, I breathed it, and when I was awake, when I was asleep, just in all of me, it was just, there's no way I'm gonna lose because I'm just not gonna let that happen. It's just me and one other girl. One of us has to win, one of us has to lose, and it's just not gonna be me, I'm gonna be the winner. You know what I'm saying? So that's just how it goes. So when I have the control of the outcome of a situation, then that's how I go in. Like, that's just what it is. when I don't always have the control, like for example on Dancing with the Stars, I have to make the excuse for why I didn't win that. But for Dancing with the Stars, you got the audience and you got judges and opinions and voters, so it was like, I'm going to do my best, but if I don't win, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But anyway, back to what I was saying. My confidence comes from preparation is what I'm saying. It's not just I'm just cocky and, I can just win, I can win. I come prepared, and I know what's in front of me. And I approach everything in my life now with that same thought process. And this is what I learned through boxing. And boxing has taught me discipline. And you will hear a lot of these same words from all athletes, structure, fearlessness, athleticism, excellence, courage, competitive freedom. Because I'm very comfortable being confident. Not everybody is. And sometimes they're confident, but it's a quiet confidence. I happen to like to tell you how confident I am, because it just works in my favor. But self-reliance, I learned that through boxing, just in life in general, and self-control. So I really honestly can't imagine being a woman and not knowing these things. And if I didn't box, another thing that is really unique to my situation, we all know who Muhammad Ali is, and we all know my dad has Parkinson's disease, and I can't sit down and talk to him, like I would love to be able to, and if I didn't box, I wouldn't have had the chance to walk in his footsteps, and to actually experience some of the same feelings and thoughts that he had when he was in the ring. And that's just invaluable. My dad faced opponents just like I did, and I'm talking about, what it feels like to get knocked down, get back up again. Nobody can really describe that, until it actually happens. And, to coach yourself through pain and fatigue and go on to win a championship, and to feel like I had to win to be a champion for those that look up to me, whether that was the case or not. Those are things that I tell myself and which give me strength going into the ring. So I feel like I'm doing something bigger than me. And sometimes that's what it takes when you're not motivated necessarily by your opponent because you know that they have no chance. You have to come up with other ways to motivate you. I'm just joking. So anyway, but I have 8 sisters and brothers, and I'm the only one that followed my dad into the ring, and of course, I'm the baby girl, I'm the youngest, and my dad didn't like that, but he supported it because he knew that he couldn't stop me, basically, so he had to just go ahead and go on with it. But, me and my father will always have a special connection because of that, and a lot of people would assume that I'm daddy's girl and that I'm his favorite, but I'm not. My sister Hannah actually is. Which is fine with me, because me and my dad, we really don't get along that great, to be honest with you, because my dad is Muslim, I'm not, and at a young age, I told him that I didn't want to be Muslim, and for all of you that know my dad's story and what he stood for in the war, and then for his, 8-year-old daughter that she doesn't think she knows what she's talking about anyway, says, I don't want to be Muslim, and I had reasons. At that young age, we kind of bumped heads a lot, but I'm just like him, so he respects me for that. But, boxing is a tough male-dominated sport, and it can be even tougher for women because they don't get the support that men get. And this is just another example, of why we need Title IX and the support for women. Women's boxing is just now becoming an Olympic sport. And I'm very excited about that. Thank you, yes. But men have been competing for years, and there really was no reason for women not to be competing. But like I said, I'm not going to dwell on the past. We're going to support it and go forward and just be happy that we're getting that opportunity now, because I didn't have that opportunity when I started boxing. I got involved with the Women's Sports Foundation because I want to help girls and women from all walks of life understand the role of sports and the importance of physical activity. And I feel that sports is something that we need to be introduced to. Because we don't always know what's good for us or what we're gonna like or what we don't like. Like me, I wasn't even introduced to sports, and if you would have asked me back then, I would have said no, I don't want to play. So I would have loved for my mother to have pushed me in that direction and to have supported me. And like I said, it's a big regret of mine that I wasn't able to be out there with Venus and Serena and Lisa Leslie on the basketball court or doing something other than boxing. The Women's Sports Foundation has a mission, and that is to advance the lives of girls and women through sports and physical activity. We are the voice that makes sure that females can play and enjoy. The Women's Sports Foundation is committed to keeping Title IX alive, and that's why we're here today. That's why I'm here, because we know how important it is to keep these girls active. Now, what is Title IX? I know you guys know, but I'm going to say it again. It's legislation which ensures equal access to both men and women in federally funded educational programs and activities, including sports. I have a few stats for you. As a result of Title IX, the work of the Women's Sports Foundation, the number of girls participating in high school varsity sports is up 2 in 5, or 980%. That's amazing. We are up 500% in women's collegiate programs. So therefore, that just proves it was lack of opportunity, not a lack of interest that kept girls out of sports for so long. Now, even though both men's and women's sports participation is increasing, female college athletes receive almost $176 million less in athletic scholarship funds each year. That just doesn't make any sense. Now, there are myths about sports participation by females. One example is some people say girls just aren't interested in sports, but we know that's not the case. According to our findings in Go Out and Play, there are no significant gender gaps between girls' and boys' interests in sports and exercise. Interest levels among genders was found to vary by grade level, school location, and family income. This undermines the notion that boys are more naturally interested than girls. And here's another myth. Title IX forces schools to cut men's sports. Again, that is false. When women's opportunity rise, so do men's opportunities. According to the data released by the NCAA in 2011, the number of male athletes have grown by 38,482. During that same period, female student athletes increased by 32,662. So while women continue to lag behind men, both continue to see a rise in participation opportunities. Now, Title IX often receives the blame, but it's schools and their athletic departments that decide how to spend their budgets and what teams to cut. And I personally feel like, look, if somebody has to get cut in order for females to participate, then so be it. Everybody has to have an opportunity to play, and we just have to make room for everybody. So even though Title IX may not force anybody to cut, people have to make their decisions, and we have to make it happen. We need a place too. And that's what the bottom line is. It's not really about men or about women. It's about everybody having an opportunity. And that's what people seem to forget. If things were fair, we wouldn't have to have a Title IX, and we wouldn't have to be at this conference. But unfortunately, that's just the case. So through SHARP, the Women's Sports Foundation and the University of Michigan will work together to evaluate the barriers and the benefits of getting women and girls active and healthy. Together, we will break down the myths and prohibit, and dissuade us from being active. Now, through sports and physical activity, we learn valuable life lessons on teamwork, endurance, reliance, leadership, confidence, and the list goes on. The benefits go far beyond the schoolyard. So where would girls be without sports? That's the question that's asked. And, I can say, let's just look around and look at the state of the girls that haven't had the opportunity to play sports or be active. And what I see, and I think depending on what area you're in or how wide you open your eyes, is overweight girls with poor self-image. They're looking up to reality stars nowadays, which that's just sad in itself to me. A lot of girls are pregnant. Some of them are in unhealthy relationships, and many of them have no confidence. And that really just makes me sad, to see the state that our girls are in. And, unfortunately, life can break us down, but I feel that sports can build us back up. And that's why it's important that we're all able to have the opportunity to play and be active. Girls that do not participate in sports or are not active are at higher risk of obesity, diabetes, osteoporosis, and other serious diseases. And unfortunately, 1/3 of America's girls are overweight or obese. 1/3. That's really sad. We must get girls active through sports and PE at a young age, because if a girl does not participate by the time she is 10 years old, there is only a 10% chance that she will be active at 25. Being active in sports during adolescence and young adulthood makes girls 20% less likely to get breast cancer later in life. So, Title IX is helping girls beat those odds. Through the Sharp Center, the Women's Sports Foundation, and the University of Michigan will advance research and policy making to enhance the lives of women and girls through sport, movement, and play. Over the last 40 years, our society has benefited from the profound and wide-reaching impact of Title IX. The legislation not only is responsible for the surge in women's athletics, it is the reason we have more female doctors, engineers, judges, researchers, political leaders, powerful women than we did 40 years ago. Women have changed. And, for every strong woman that we see, unfortunately, there's probably about 1,000 others that aren't. So we have a lot more work to do. Title IX has also paved the way for stronger public policy for men and women with impairments, including athletes. Title IX has given women the power to be whatever they want to be. Now, this is the progress that gives me and the Women's Sports Foundation pride, tremendous pride, because we know that we have been a part of that, and we're going to be a part of the continuing fight to make sure that we get even further from this point on. So we hope that this conference will build awareness and appreciation for all that Title IX has done. Thank you. Thank you. I think we're going to open the floor for questions. Oh, you have the questions? Okay.
Okay, so I have three questions.
I hope you guys have some good questions, because I try to keep it short and to the point so that I could answer your question.
Well, I think they are good questions, actually. This one is, how young is too young for girls to be boxing?
Wow. Well, there's no right or wrong answer to that, but it's funny because I get this email all the time that says Laila Ali's daughter boxing, and there's this young girl who's like 6 years old who is not my daughter, but it's being passed around the internet as my daughter boxing. So, I think it just depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about just putting on the gloves, hitting the bag, then you can start that as early as you want to, but girls, I think, I'm not sure what the age is. I didn't actually box as an amateur. I'm not sure what the age is when you can start actually competing. But, boxing is a very physical sport, obviously. So I hope my daughter doesn't want to box, but if she wanted to box, I probably would have her wait until she was about probably 8 years old. That's about the age that boys start.
It is? Okay. And actually, this is a good segue to that. With your dad being a pro athlete, was there anything that was brought to your attention that made you think twice before becoming a pro athlete yourself, such as travel time, away from family? And then I'm just going to add another piece to this, and that is you did talk about your childhood a bit, and it was challenged in many ways because your father wasn't there. And so I'm wondering if that also gave you pause as you went in to become a professional athlete.
Part of the reason that it took me so long to go to the gym is because like I mentioned, that I was concerned about what people thought, but I also never wanted to be a public person. And when you're an athlete, you're a public person. And, I knew that fame would come with boxing because I knew that I was going to do well. I knew I was going to be a champion. I knew there would be a lot of attention on me. And that was something that I didn't really necessarily want. So that was a struggle. And it still is, to be honest with you, because when I'm out, I'd rather kind of go unnoticed. I'm not one of those people who likes attention. But that just comes with the territory. So yes, it was something that I thought of. And that is because I grew up in my household with everywhere we go or everywhere we went. Whether it's to the diner, to the grocery store, there's people around my dad, there's a crowd around him, and you're a kid and there's strangers, and he loved it. He loved attention. He's doing magic tricks, he's shaking hands, and lots of times he would leave us places. He would forget, like he would get caught up and leave us at the restaurant. No, seriously. And so, my house was public. People would stop by. My dad say, let them in. We were in a gated community, but just let them in. So there's always people over. And I didn't want that for myself, And so you really just have to find a balance. But at the same time, I wanted to box, and I wanted it badly. So I went ahead and went with it. So, yeah, I definitely had some second thoughts about that just through my father's experience.
Uh-huh. This one is, how do sports create more confident female leaders in society? Oh,
how does it not? That's there's just something about, and like I said, I didn't play sports, and I'm naturally just a confident person, but just being on a team, the relationships that you have, you building bonds with people, feeling strong, just that alone, being able to have a goal as an athlete. You have a goal and you're training, you're pushing past pain and you're pushing past fatigue and you're making it there. I remember when I first started running and I was like, I can't run. I had to run in order to box, and I had to start off run walking, and then eventually I was running, and then there came a time when it was like, okay, I'm only running 2 miles, now I need to run 4, I need to run 6, I need to run up this mountain. And every time it was a new plateau that I thought I couldn't make, but I got there. And so now that alone just makes me confident of what I can do because I've done it before, and usually our mind is our limit. So when you push past those limits, it just makes you confident. And for me, dealing with the pain and everything that I've been through as an athlete, everything else just seems like a piece of cake, and it just, like I said, it just makes me really confident in that way. Everyone else would have a different story about that, but for me, that's what did it.
Okay, they didn't give me a card, so I had a question, but now I've got more cards, so I have to use their cards. Are you making up these questions? No, I'm not, but I have a question for you.
You don't hear any of your questions, no, I'm joking.
And I'm going to ask it once I get through these cards, but if we have time. But what is the best advice you'd give girls and young women who want to pursue a career in sports?
You just have to go for it, no matter what it is that you want to do. I mean, the first thing I do, one thing about me is I'm a planner. So, whether now you got the internet or you ask around, you find out where's the best place in your area that you can go. I always want to train with the best. I want to be taught by the best, and aim high. So you just have to get out there and you got to start. You have to not procrastinate, and you have to be willing to work hard, work harder than everybody else. For me, it's like, if you're not going to try to be the best at whatever you're doing, do your absolute best, then, what's the point of doing it? Something that I had in my speech, I just realized I left out, was that, for me, the prize was not always a championship or a title. A lot of times it's just simply knowing that I did my best. That made me feel good. And that is what's important, because not everyone's going to be undefeated. Boxing is a little different than other sports, like soccer or basketball, where you're going to lose, as a team, and you can't just be down about it. Even boxers, there's some boxers that lose. It doesn't mean, my dad lost fights. It's just, you have to be able to get back up and keep going and just know that you did your best. You don't want to regret because you stayed out too late, or you didn't train hard enough, or you weren't eating right, or you didn't do the things that you were supposed to do. And that is the worst feeling, to feel like you wish you could go back and do it again because you didn't put your all into it.
Yeah. What do you see as the next step for women advocating for their daughters? In other words, what are we called to do, and how is it that we accept a torch that those of us that came before us asked us to carry?
You know, I'm going to be learning as I go with that, because for me, you know, luckily my husband, you know, being an athlete, you know, he played in the NFL, and he was very sports oriented, and he played team sports, so I'm kind of following his lead on that. But with my daughter Sydney, I'm going to introduce her to sports at a young age, and that's going to be a requirement. She's going to have to play a sport. I don't care which one it is. No, seriously, it's like you don't have to do it for a living, but you're going to have to participate. You can do soccer, you can do t-ball, whatever it is. You're going to be involved in something, and you're going to finish. And if you don't like it, you can do something, you know, during the next season. I'm not going to force her to try to play, you know, professionally, and you know, but she's going to participate in sports, and I think that that's really important because of all of the, like I told you, all the positive things that come from it. So I think that introducing her, and she's already an athlete. That little girl.
I bet. I'm sure.
Oh my God.
I'm sure she is.
She's funny. She's a feisty little thing, but you know, so I know it shouldn't be hard, but you know, I think that it's important just to be positive and let our children. One thing about my mom that I would almost say one thing she did do right, but one thing, my mom was very, I could say her strongest point for me as a mother was that she was so positive, and she was a spiritual person, and she never made me feel like there was something I couldn't do. It was always, I always felt like she was going to love me unconditionally, and she was going to support whatever I did, and I felt like the sky was the limit for me. And even when I said I was going to box, she tells me now that her heart dropped. She's just like, oh my God, not again. You know, she watched my dad go through it, but she never let me know that. She supported me, and I never knew that she felt that way. So I grew up with that idea, like, what? I can do whatever I want to do, and that came from my parents, you know. So I just think it's really important for us to just be positive and to build strong, you know, strong children, and you know, be careful in what we say and the way that we say it, and introduce them, you know, make them try different things, you know, and then they'll fall in love with something. Hopefully it, you know, won't be a boy that'll take them all the way to the left or something like that. But anyway, go on.
Boy athlete, though, at least, right? Okay, we have one other question, and actually this question kind of gets to a question that I wanted to ask, so I may follow up on this one. But much of the growth in girls' and women's participation in sports has been white women and girls, yet there is little discussion about the within gender, race, and ethnic disparities in sports participation and access, I would like to add. We can only be so proud of the progress for minority girls and women across sports. In what ways must we begin to have courageous discussions about race and ethnicity within women's sports? How can we get rid of some of the misconceptions about minority girls' desires to participate, such as hair issues?
Who asked that question? Don't be scared. I'm just wondering. That was a very good question.
It's a great question.
Great question. Are you an athlete? Okay. Well, I think that what's great is to ask that question to start. And, you know, I honestly cannot give you a perfect answer for that. I think that just being black, I know that in our communities, you know, we don't have as much access, especially with schools cutting sports. You know, and a lot of times parents, you know, when your parents are concerned about getting food on the table and paying bills, then a lot of times there's not a lot of energy left or time to take, because look, I got a stepson that lives in my house that just started living with me, who's 16. And I had no idea how much time goes into getting him to his basketball practice after school and picking him up, and then the games on the weekends. Our whole schedule is around him now. And you have to, in order to be serious, you have to have a committed parent. You have to have that support. You know what I mean? So I think that for one, it starts in the household. You know, and we have to want more for ourselves. We have to demand more for ourselves. But we already know that, you know, just in general, with a lot of things when it comes to race and all of that, that there's a lot of inequality and unfairness. And I can't really speak to that right now because I'm not in that world. Is that my earring?
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Okay, sorry. So, But I think that that's an ongoing conversation that we should definitely have. Now, at the Women's Sports Foundation, we have a program called Go Girl Go that is geared towards the inner city and you know, a lot of African American girls in that program to get them involved in sports, and that's what we need. You know, we just need to dedicate more time and resources and funds and ask the question and try to do something about it. You know, but I mean, like I said, that answer didn't make a change right now today, but I think that we should have an ongoing conversation about that. So thanks for asking that question. Thank you for listening to me today.